Have a very special visitor with us in the attic today. My friend Cowboy Jim.
Howdy.
I asked Jim to join us because, well, frankly, I don't know very much about cowboys and the early days of cowpunching, and I hoped he might be able to tell us something about that part of America's past.
I sure would like to. And there's one cowboy in particular that I think you should know about. Fellow by the name of Pecos Bill. He was known all the way from Texas to California for his bravery and his inventions, and for the way he looked. I guess if we've ever had any giants in America, Pecos Bill was one of them.
What do you mean he was a giant? Was he big?
Was he big? You ask any cowpuncher if Pecos Bill was big.
Well, but how big? I mean, tall as a real giant and strong?
Oh, shucks, yes. Why, he was easy 12 feet high and strong enough so that he could rope a couple of miles of railroad track just like it was a little keg.
Weren't people afraid of him?
Only the outlaws and the robbers. They were plenty scared. But decent folks never had a better friend. And the cowboys, well, he put us on the map.
How? You tell us what he did.
Well, no two cowpunchers tell his story just alike, but I'll tell you what they say down in Texas, where I come from. Bill's folks were pioneers. They liked the wide open country, and when the neighborhood began to get crowded, well, they'd just pack up their wagon and move on. Now, Bill was just a little fella. Some say he was just a baby, but most folks agree he was about 4 when his ma met his pa at the cabin door one night and...
Pa? Oh, Pa?
What is it, Ma? That old rattlesnake been bothering you again?
Worse than that. We got to move.
What for? We just got this place fixed up with prospects of a good crop come fall.
It's the same old thing, Pa. Neighbors.
Again? How close?
Close enough to make it crowded. 50 miles from here this time. Next thing we know, it'll be 25. And after that, we'll see smoke rising when they start their fires. Might as well move into town.
Well, I guess you're right. You get the children ready, and I'll pack up the wagon. We'll cross the Pecos River heading west. But before we set out this time, I want my supper.
It's waiting for you, Pa. You come inside, and we'll make plans while you eat.
And that's when Bill got separated from his family. That time they were pushing on through Texas, heading west. You see, they piled that wagon so high that little Bill, who was hanging on the back, bounced off just after they crossed the Pecos River. His family didn't miss him for 3 days. They had so many children. And by the time they found out, it was too late. You see, he'd been taken in by a mother coyote and made a member of the pack. Some say he stayed with them till he was grown. But at any rate, he stayed with them long enough to learn their language, as well as the language of all the other animals. And what's more, he didn't know that he was a boy. Now, the way he found out he was a boy was, one day he met a cowboy.
Howdy, stranger. I said howdy. You live out here in these wild parts? That's pretty good. You know, I'd sworn it was a real coyote if I hadn't seen you do it. What is it? Don't you talk?
Talk?
Yes, talk. Like this. Talk.
Talk.
You mean you talk like a coyote?
Talk.
But you're not a coyote. You're a man, like me, a man. You have 2 arms, 2 feet, a face. Say, you got any clothes? Like the stuff I'm wearing?
No clothes.
But that doesn't mean that you're a coyote. The Indians don't wear clothes like these, but they're men. Look here, you haven't got 2 pointed ears, or a long sharp nose, or a tail.
No long ears. No long nose. No tail.
You see, you're not a coyote. You're a man. I tell you what, you come back with me to camp, I'll teach you to talk, and if you don't want to join the human race, I'll eat my hat.
Now, Bill was smart. By the time he got to camp that night, he'd learned how to talk. And he told them all about his being a coyote since he was a little fella. And when he told them it was the Pecos River where he'd been lost, the men decided to call him Pecos Bill.
Did he ever go back to the coyotes?
Well, not to stay. You see, he'd joined the human race. But he never forgot how to talk to animals, which was a very handy thing in the West in those days. Bill was a friend to every living creature, wild or tame, and they were friends with him.
Now, what about his inventions? You said he was smart, and he must have been to have learned to talk in one day. But what did he invent that was so wonderful?
Well, quite a lot of things that cowboys use. You see, Bill lived in different camps. All the camps wanted him because he was so big and strong, and also because he had ideas on how to do things better. For example, all of you probably know what barbed wire is. Well, I bet you didn't know that Pecos Bill invented it. You see, in the West in those days, they didn't have stones to build walls to keep the cattle in. So Bill, he just tied little bitty pieces of wire around a long piece, and there it was, a fence. Yes, sirree, Pecos Bill invented barbed wire and a lot of other things like, well, one day he was walking in the corral of the XL Ranch and thinking.
This being a man is fine, in lots of ways. Good food every day, soft beds at night, other men to talk to. But there's something wrong. Something that didn't bother me when I was a coyote. It's time. There's too much time spent doing nothing. Hey, Joe.
What do you want, Bill? What's up?
Joe, how do you go about bringing in a steer?
Why, like everybody else does, I guess. Put the rope down on the ground, and then set a spell, and wait for a steer to step into it.
Takes a long time, don't it?
Well, you can't hurry up a steer when he's got all of Texas for a pasture.
I got a better idea. One that'll bring in 200 steers while you're waiting for one. Look.
Bill picked up a rope, coiled it, aimed it, and threw it.
There. If there'd been a steer running by, that would have caught him right around the neck. And you know, you could even throw it from a horse.
Think of doing all that with a little old piece of rope. There ought to be a name for it.
We'll call it a lariat.
And it's been called a lariat ever since. Now, Pecos Bill worked out a lot of other ideas, too, that made cowpunching the biggest business in the West. Instead of just a few steers each year, why, hundreds and thousands of cattle began to be handled by the western ranches. And Bill invented the ways and the words for doing it.
So when we go out on the range and lasso 'em with our lariats, we'll call it rounding 'em up.
Rounding 'em up.
Then after we bring 'em back here, we herd 'em.
Herd 'em.
But I've got another idea. No corral's going to be big enough to keep all these cattle in.
Just what I've been thinking. So what's the use of our working so hard to get 'em?
Look, there's a piece of metal. Somebody take it to the kitchen and heat it up, red hot. Somebody else fetch me a steer. I'm going to take that piece of metal and brand the steer with it.
Brand him.
But it'll leave a mark.
Sure it will. That's what it's for. This here's the XL Ranch. If we brand our cattle XL and turn them loose, anybody that sees them will know that they come from here. That way we don't have to worry about keeping them fenced in. We simply ride the open range to round them up.
Sounds like a good idea. Not as much trouble as the old way.
Here's a critter for you, Bill.
And here's the branding iron. Look out, it's hot.
Someone hold his horns while I grab his tail. There. Don't hurt him any more than a bee sting. And now he's free to run where he likes.
And from that day to this, cattle have been branded and cowboys have been riding the range.
But whatever happened to Bill? Did he always stay a cowboy? Did he ever get married and settle down?
Oh, he kept on being a cowboy, all right. Fact is, his business got so big that while he lived in Texas, he had to use New Mexico for a corral and Arizona for a pasture. About that time, though, he met a gal that caught his eye. She could ride a horse like any man, and she had ideas big as Bill.
What was her name?
Sue, Sweet Sue or Slewfoot Sue, red-haired and pretty as a picture. Only trouble they ever had was on their wedding day.
No, Sue. That's the only thing you mustn't ever do. That white horse of mine is wild. No man has ever been able to stay on him for more than 2 minutes at a time. You can ride any other horse in the West, but stay away from Widowmaker.
Why do you call him Widowmaker?
Because he's made a widow of the wife of every man that's tried to ride him. Do you promise?
Maybe.
Come on, Sue. Promise.
We'll see. I'll tell you later.
And away she ran. Well, you can guess what happened. The next thing Bill knew, Sweet Sue had jumped on Widowmaker.
Well, could she ride him?
Well, not for more than 2 minutes, just like Bill said. That white horse, he reared up and he threw her up to the moon. Some say that she stayed right where she lit. Others say she ran away and was never heard from again. But down in Texas, where I come from, they tell how she fell. And she landed on her bustle and she bounced and bounced and bounced till Bill came by and picked her up.
Did she ever try to ride Widowmaker again?
Not as long as she lived. I guess she figured Bill knew best.
Well, now, is that all there is to tell about Pecos Bill?
Oh, I should say not. There's a lot more to tell, only we don't have time for me to finish it today. But the main thing to remember is Pecos Bill was a giant. Not just because he was tall and strong. Bill was a giant because he had big ideas. The cowboys owe more to Pecos Bill than to anybody else in the West.
I guess so. Would you have liked to have been a cowboy back in the days of the early West? It was hard work, but it sounds exciting and fun, doesn't it? You know, I'm very happy that we had this cowboy with us today. I thank you so much for telling us about Pecos Bill.
Well, thank you, ma'am. It was my pleasure.
And you know, it's going to be a real pleasure for me when you come back to share another story in the attic. I'll see you then. Goodbye.
The preceding program was made possible by a grant from the Ohio Department of Education.